Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show, Supercast. And the Supercast is where we talk about all things superhero related in the pop culture space. We're talking about movies, TV shows, video games, all that fun stuff. And I am Mo De Poupe, your resident Fabricant and comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by the video game designer, uh, anime nerd, and of course, lover of all things superhero, my good friend LADI. LADI, how's it going today, man?
Oh, it's going well, man. Ready to talk about some of these little topics that we have to go over today. Some of them I don't like, some of them I do like.
Right. This is yeah. Actually, there's a topic we got coming in the news that I've been sort of sitting on for a few weeks, but it relates to something we talked about way back. I want to say on the first or second episode of the Supercast. So we're
hmm
circling back around to it because it's become kind of a thing in the nerd space, and we're of course we're talking about the compensation of comic book creators by the likes of Marvel and Disney. And so we're going to jump into that in the news. But this episode, we're kind of dedicating it to Marvel's What If. And it's the Marvel's What If premiere today. It's episode one, featuring Captain Carter, a kind of an alternate universe. So, yeah,
hmm
we're gonna dive into that review of that episode later on. So stick around for that. But first, let's jump into the news. The news for mostly what we end up doing around the news is usually something related to like what's the TV or movies, the progress they're on. But this week, it's unlike last week, which had a ton of behind the scenes stuff. This week, it's a little bit thinner on the ground, I suppose. But we do have that one big topic. So before we get to that, let's talk about the smaller things. So related to what if Marvel's What If, which of course is an animated show about alternate universes, alternate storylines. What if something happened differently? They call those, read if you've ever read fan fiction or whatever, for want of a nail stories. So as if there's
hmm
something changed just a little bit, how does it change everything? So we
hmm
saw this week that there was one of the directors of the Marvel What If show talked about various other stories they didn't quite get around to or didn't do, and one of them was about a Spider-Man story that was just too dark, too intense to get the okay from Marvel to do, and apparently it involves the Man Spider. So, Lottie, I know you're you're a Spider-Man fanatic. So, who is Man Spider, and why do you think that was too much for the Marvel What If show on Disney Plus?
Okay, first of all, the man spider is Spider Man. Whoever it is, Peter Parker, whoever Spider Man, it could be pretty much anybody who has this spider mutation. What happens is that the spider mutation grows at such an exponential rate, it turns Spider Man into basically a humanoid spider. And I mean, literally, where he'll grow, 8 arms and spider like head and stuff like
And
that. And he
and
becomes,
shoots silk out of his butt.
he, no. Fortunately, no. But, he's way stronger. His strength goes up exponentially, all that stuff. And you'll think, hey, some listener who doesn't know that be like, hey, that's kind of cool. What's so bad about this? The problem is Spider Man becomes very, very aggressive in this form, almost like he can't control who he is. He becomes very aggressive, very animalistic. Basically, he acts like a spider. And what does the spider want to do? It wants to consume whatever is in its what it considers in its territory. And that's the problem that, Peter, of course, being such a kind soul, he doesn't like what the mutation does to him. So,
All right.
eventually he figures out a way to subdue the mutation. But I feel like Marvel probably doesn't like this too much because this could go into like, body horror of a human actually turning it, because we know in the comic books and in the TV show, when Spider-Man transforms, he's in a lot of pain. It's not like something that he just like. It's like, something that's like, oh hey, look, I'm a spider now. It's like, no, he starts writhing on the ground in pain. Arms shoot out of his back and his side, and he slowly transforms into a spider,
Well,
and
and he
he's in
does he
pain.
yeah, doesn't he become like all hairy and he gets like multiple eyes and his mandibles become like
Yeah,
spider. I mean, he's basically a if you ever seen that movie The Fly from back in the 80s, it's basically like the in between transformation from the human to a fly and it's pretty
yeah.
gross.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's something that they feel that some people don't may not like. Somebody like me who grew up in the '90s, when I was watching the '90s TV show, Spider-Man became the Man Spider 3 times in that show, and I thoroughly enjoyed the little character development Spider-Man went through to find out that his powers are not always a blessing. There can be somewhat of a curse with it, and him eventually coming to grips with it and understanding what it is. And
well, I mean,
something,
there's another aspect to it though, is that
yeah,
the animation style, the hand drawn animation style,
hmm,
just like the comics, makes something that it looks cool and like you're like, oh man, that's cool. But if you see it in CG or live
yeah,
action,
live action,
it
it
would
will
be
look
fucking.
probably
It would
horrible.
yeah, it would be like a an episode of like a horror movie. So
Yeah, it'll look, yeah,
I see it.
yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Like, it's something that is something that I can understand why they got rid of it, but something that I kind of like, because this could lead into, like, because we know there's a lot of speculation that there might be a live action Spider Verse movie. And one of the main Spider-Mans in the Spider-Verse is the Spider-Man that can control the Spider-Man that can control the Man Spider.
He's
Like,
the
he could
were
literally,
spider.
yeah, the Were Spider. Basically, he's a Were Spider. He can literally transform into the Man Spider at will. Like, he can literally grow limbs at will. Like, he can just be in the middle of you fighting him. He could be like having like the little, like, when they try to push each other. He can just grow an arm out of his back and punch you in the face.
And it can also
Literally.
and it could also shoot web at you from his butt. So
Yeah.
you can't sneak up on him from behind.
From behind, yeah. And it's one of those things that is like, there's certain things that I can see why they might not like it, because it's like the same thing that we always said, that Spider-Man fans always knew they will never put Carnage in a movie unless they want to skirt the edge of PG-13, or just go balls to the wall and make it rated R, because Carnage is to that form of body horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have to be, and honestly, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Venom: Let There Be Carnage because we just saw what I think we just saw in the Suicide Squad what a Carnage movie would look like.
Yeah.
I think we saw what a Carnage movie would look like, and so I'm interested to see how they don't splash blood everywhere.
Because
On
it's
that.
because it's one of those things that we talked about. Carnage is a serial killer. He's a serial killer with superpowers. Like, if you think, what's that guy's name? Omni Man and Homelander are bad. Imagine a creature, this dude who's actually a sadistic. He actually enjoys the sight of blood and seeing people in pain. Give that man Spider-Man powers, and he can basically become a ooze. Imagine that. Imagine the nightmare that's going to be unleashed in that Venom movie. But probably the movie's PG-13, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Oh yeah, so that movie has definitely been toned the heck down. Like, that little part where he's holding up to the guy, to the like, you viewers, the part where Carnage is holding that prison guard to the wall and he sticks his tongue down his throat. That is extremely censored for what Carnage would do to somebody.
Yeah,
I'm talking about very, very, very censored.
yeah, true, true that. Well, that's. I mean, I think we're gonna hear more about a lot. This is just an indication to me that at least in the planning stage, the early stages, all cards are on the table. There's all ideas are on the table. They're brainstorming. They're because that's not the only rejected storyline. There were other that were too spoilery or whatever. But this just if that's the one that gets kicked out, there's a ton of much more sensible things that we could see besides that. So I feel like, and I think that they're going to do more than one season of What If. So if they do, then there's plenty of other Spider-Man, um, plenty of other Spider-Man storylines that could be told. So it's good that they at least were talking about it, because that tells me that at least in the writers' room at the very beginning, any idea is
Hmm.
considered. So that's
Yeah.
that bodes well for the storytelling. Um, moving on, I just wanted to talk about, since I mentioned Suicide Squad, a little bit of DC news. Let's talk briefly about the performance of Suicide Squad. Um, Suicide Squad, which of course we talked about all on last week's show. Both of us really, in fact, I said it was my favorite movie of the year so far. Uh, I don't, I know a lot of you really liked it. But we had a lot to say about it last week.
Yeah.
And can you believe it? You can leave all these motherfuckers that didn't go see this shit. What? First of all, what's wrong with y'all, you people? Not you, you good, intelligent people that went in and saw it, and that, not you. Everybody else, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Y'all gonna go out to fucking Disney World, or you're gonna go to anywhere else, no mask, because you apparently don't care about the Delta variant then, but you can't go out to see an awesome piece of entertainment like this. Please be do better, world.
Okay, it was a
But
good movie.
yeah, it underperformed though. It only made like
Yeah.
26.5 mil on the for box office. And I get it. It's an R-rated movie. You're not gonna do gangbusters like PG-13. I get that. Um, but only
But
26.5 million in America, and I understand it had 2.88 million views on HBO Max, which I don't know what that means in terms of performance. Is that what they wanted? I don't know, but
I feel like this. I feel like DC is unfortunately suffering from what we call people. They've been putting out so many lackluster movies that when they finally make a good one, no one believes it until like a week or two after the movie comes out, and people who are just like, I'll go watch the movie, and they eventually start saying, oh, hey, this is actually a good movie. Like, because I'm gonna be honest, it was the same way with the Joker. I had to convince people that the Joker was a good movie. Like, I'm like, no, guys, it's literally a good movie. They're like, I don't know. I'm like, guys, trust me, it is a good movie. And a lot of people didn't go and watch Joker until it was almost out of theater, and that's when it did really well. Because I'm gonna tell you, when I watched the movie when it first came out, that theater was kind of empty.
hmm
It was They put in a small theater. They didn't put in the big one. Because I watched it. I watched it in a primetime viewing. I watched it around 6.
right.
Yeah, around 6 o'clock. That's around a primetime viewing, and it was on like on a Saturday or a Friday or something. It was a primetime viewing, and there was really nobody there watching it. It's unfortunate because this is you can put the blame on both people. DC not being consistent and putting out really good movies, and two, a lot of people, not watching the movie because it's a good movie. It
Well,
is a
I
good
mean,
movie, and
there's
there
I.
are.
Yeah, well, I would say look. I know there's a pandemic on, and people have over last year they were out of the a habit of going to the theater. Yes, it's a big spectacle movie, but it's not starring anybody you really know. It's yeah, it's a it's a title that maybe wasn't super well received before. James
Hmm.
Gunn is not Christopher Nolan, so it's not like his name draws people out. It may be the marketing was. There's a lot of reasons why this could have underperformed, or let's just call it what it is, kind of flopped, because they spent a lot of money. This movie had $185 million budget and $100 million marketing budget. So in order to make this not be a financial failure, it's gonna seriously gonna have to make you know. I think if it's going to have to make that money back times two at least.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, so it's got to make 600 mil, like
yeah.
on the real, and I don't think it's
I,
going to do that.
no, I don't think it'll do that. But it people will start watching it again. And it's just, oh
I
man, it's
mean,
just
I
one of
don't know
those
about
things that
yeah. No, I was
it's
just
just
saying.
one of those things that it's you know, I'm gonna give you another example of a movie that was like that too. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie, you know, what do all everybody say? Video game movies suck.
Yeah,
But when I went and watched that movie, I told everybody, this is the greatest video game movie I've ever seen in my life. There's no other video game movie that has been, in my opinion, as close to the source material and actually like rewarding the fans of the game who watch the movie, like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Some people might come in here and say the original Mortal Kombat, but I feel like the original Mortal Kombat was just a good movie because it had a lot of good actors in it. But when it comes to actually being a Mortal Kombat fan and watching a movie, it wasn't that good. That Sonic the Hedgehog movie, if you're a Sonic fan, you will love that movie. And it's just not a lot of people watched it. But then guess what? It started selling like gangbusters towards the end,
yeah,
towards when it started getting to the dollar movie. And then now it's that it's streamable on DVD. Everybody started buying and they're like, oh my God, the Sonic movie was actually pretty good.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think the thing about this and the Sonic movie, it's what did it have going for it? Is rated PG. Was it PG-13? It's
I think it
got
was PG.
it had a good rating. It was a pretty family friendly. It did reward people who were fans for a long time, but it wasn't hard for it. It had a character that wasn't hard for kids to get into or for them to understand. And for the most part, like it it didn't cost as much money as it eventually made. And yeah, people are discovering it on streaming now. It's on streaming. I think it's on Hulu right now. People are discovering it on streaming, and their kids are watching it. So now, it's ripe for a sequel. So,
Yes, right for a
that's
sequel.
the
Yeah.
problem. That's the problem with Suicide Squad is a sequel.
Yeah.
It essentially restarted itself. So all the goodwill, whatever that was from the first one, was undermined. Um, Harley Quinn apparently is not as big a draw as maybe we thought she
As we thought,
was.
yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of shocked about that a little bit.
there's the addition of more, and it's a goofy looking ass movie. It leaned into the goofiness. It maybe didn't sell itself the way it should have, but I like to think that it has legs. I like to think that the more people get to see it on HBO Max, that the bigger audience it will have. But time will tell. I personally I've watched it a few times now. I don't know about you. I literally I mean I was half watching it yesterday, but I just sort of let it roll while I was playing video games and was just
Mhm.
sort of paying attention here and there. It's one of those movies that I think that if it's on, I'm like I'm gonna drop in and check this out. And
Yeah, it's a good movie.
that's the way Avatar. I remember doing that with Avatar on
Yeah,
HBO when it would just be I'd just randomly roll up on it. I'm like, oh, it's a halfway through. I think I'll watch the rest of this.
I watched it because I like that movie. I really do. I feel like I feel like also there's a lot of people being ultra critical with the movie because I have a few friends that watch the movie and they're like, "Yeah, it still wasn't a good movie." And I'm like, "What did you not like about the movie?" And they can't really even tell me a reason. And I'm just like, I think you just
Which
have
is
such
fine.
a
It's fine. If people don't like the movie, it's fine. I would love to know what their problem with it was, but
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I feel, and those people are telling people that it's not that great of a movie. But the thing about it is, you ask those people that didn't like the movie, because like you said, it's fine. If you don't like the movie, that's fine. But if you ask those people who didn't like the movie, they can't give you a good reason. And I feel like they just say that because they have a beef with how DC movies are. And when it's like, for example, this is one of the things that happens to comedians all the time. And that's why comedians hate hype men. Comedians hate hype men. You know why? Because comedians, when you go into a movie, when you go and watch a comedian, and they come on stage, and this hype man says, "Oh man, this dude is one of the funniest people. He's gonna make you die laughing. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that." You're gonna expect to basically have Dave Chappelle show up on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this, like I'm telling you, I've listened to a lot of podcasts of comedians. They hate hype man. They absolutely hate him because they ruined the thing. And it's like the same thing. A lot of people came in and they're like, "Oh, this movie was this, this, and this, and this, and that," and they're like, "Oh, okay." They're expecting this movie to be a masterpiece, and they're comparing it to like something like Infinity War or like the original Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy. They're comparing it to that instead of seeing it as its own movie and enjoying it for what it was. And they're not doing that, so they're being critical of the movie. But
Hmm.
if I bet you, if they just came into that movie, like for example, me, I came into the movie just gonna be like, you know what? I'm going to watch the movie and give it a chance. I'm gonna base it off of, I'm gonna give it, put it in its own little category and watch it. And then I came back like, man, this is a good movie. I really enjoyed it. But I feel like everybody's like, oh, okay, they're saying this movie's this good. Okay, I'm gonna compare it to the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're gonna
Right.
compare it to every
Well,
movie
and that's
where there
fair
was a
though.
ragtime team. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's fair because the same guy who made those movies. So, I mean, I think the best thing that not Guardians, but the best thing that Suicide has Squad has going for it is that this is a pandemic year. So, any kind of box office receipts are sort of looked at with an asterisk by it, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a pandemic going on. But I think what really is going to be most important, like if you're a fan of this movie and you're like, I want more James Gunn doing more things like this, it's going to be streaming. It's going to be what is HBO Max? What are they saying? How many times is it being streamed until it's it has 30 days? How many times is it streamed? How many millions of views did it get? How long did people watch? On and so forth. And if it turns
Mhm.
out that yes, the box office doesn't quite match up, but they see a big uptick of people watching it on the streaming service, well, then that sort of, gives them more incentive to do it again. Maybe not with as big a budget. And to be fair to James Gunn, he got a
Mhm.
budget for a theatrical only release movie. And then he ended up having to have it on streaming because of the pandemic. So, I figure DC is sort of talking that talk about that they want to do more with him, and they've already got Peacemakers in the can, and we're going to see that hopefully later this year, or maybe early next year. So I don't think DC's done working with James Gunn. I just wonder.
Yeah.
I just wonder will they give him the money like they gave him this time. I would say probably not. Not with these
And
films.
and and this is and that's and it's so unfortunate, man, because this was a good movie, and I really feel like people are kneecapping the potential of Marvel. I mean, not Marvel, DC by doing this because it's frustrating because I'm not saying you should enjoy the movie as much as I did, but I know a lot of people I talked to. They said, "Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It's not as good as what some people are saying it, but I really enjoyed the movie and I'll watch it again." And I'm like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, but there is I feel like there's enough people talking bad about the movie that they're swaying other people to not watch the movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that is frustrating because I've watched movies like this where I'm like, I really enjoyed the movie, but there's a lot of people saying, no, that movie's not good. No, that movie's not good. No, that movie's not good. And it's like, I mean, and then I'll ask people and I'll talk to people about it, and then they'll say, "Oh, this is stupid. This is stupid." But I'm like, good example. Tomorrow War was critically destroyed, or I say critics liked it, but a lot of people, viewers who watched it, didn't like it. They'll tell me like, "Oh, the storyline is stupid," or "This is stupid," but this is stupid. But I'm like, "But you like, but you find the Terminator a classic." And the Terminator has a terrible storyline too. Like, come on now. It's just as bad when it comes to time travel.
Right.
Just as bad. But they'll say Terminator is a classic. But they'll crucify this movie. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things that you got, and it's just like I like it. It causes when people try to go out, and it's just not in just video games, it's everything. It's movies, it's movies, video games, comic books. When people try to take a chance and go out and make something good, it's like another good example. This is I'm kind of ranting about this because I'm upset about this. Um, it's another good example. It's like the game for I'm pretty sure you heard about this. The game that came out on PlayStation, Days Gone. Um, the survival, the post-apocalyptic survival horror game that came out in 2019. Everybody, the game came out, man. It was all these big YouTubers bashed the game. PewDiePie, all these big million, like people who have like 20 million, 30 million subscribers bashed the game because the game was kind of difficult. It had a kind of steep learning curve, and people were like, "Oh, the game's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad." And they bashed the game, and people didn't buy the game. And then you find out later on, right? So the game didn't sell well, right? So then pandemic comes, and guess who comes back around? PewDiePie comes back around and plays the game again. And then he puts out a video that says, "I need to apologize to the people who developed Days Gone. This is actually a good game. And this is a good game to play during the pandemic. It takes up a little good hours. It's actually fun." Because a lot of times, I know the beginning mission. I know what the mission everybody got pissed off about. Because the first game, beginning of the mission, your motorcycle's broken, and you literally have to go across the whole entire map to get tools. And a lot of people didn't like that part because it was so hard, and it turned a lot of people off. PewDiePie finally got past that first mission and saw how good the game was. And because, remember, 30 million subscribers, guess what? A bunch of people started buying Days Gone. Articles coming out, game that you must play during pandemic, Days Gone. Everybody started buying Days Gone. PlayStation released Days Gone for free on PlayStation Plus. Everybody downloads it. And they're like, "Oh my God, this is a great game. Days Gone." Days Gone Metacritic score skyrockets up. Everybody's like, "It's a good game." But then you find out late 2020, Sony, they asked the head of Sony, "Are they making a Days Gone 2?" And he's like, "No, the game didn't sell well." Everybody's like, "Oh my God, why would you do this? The game was so good." But when the game came out, you guys crucified it. Sony saw that and said, "Well, we're not going to do this again." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But now, guess what? People signed petitions. They started going back and buying the game, like actual people who like the game, they want to support it. Because I don't have to say anything. I bought the game when it came out for $60, so I'm not going to even say anything. I supported the game when it first came out, but people started going back buying the game instead of just downloading it for free on PlayStation. It got ported to PC. It's one of the highest selling games on Steam right now. Now Sony's like, "Okay, we're going to make a sequel." But you see what happened? At one point, Sony's like, "No, I'm not going to make a sequel because the game didn't sell well." It got reviewed well by critics, and the few people who played the game and beat it reviewed it well, but nobody bought it because y'all saw a couple of people hate on the game. You know what I mean? But the people who hated on it had such a big opinion. And it's just one of those things that it happens to everything. And it's just frustrating that it's happening to this movie because this could hurt DC because now they're going to be like, James Gunn, instead of giving you a $200 million budget, we'll give you like an $80 million budget, you know?
Yeah. Which, hey, look, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. They made Shazam, the first Shazam, for $60 million. So it's not like it's not doable. He just has to scale back his ideas. It's not, and James Gunn's a smart and very accomplished filmmaker, and he, the limits are his imagination, but he knows as a director what he can and can't do, how much everything costs. So I have to be honest, I'm usually pretty fine with limiting budgets with directors because it causes them to be creative with
Yeah.
things, and it when you know that there's all let's just say with comic book movies, we have to get to a point where we scale back how much money is or not we, but they scale back how much money is being paid for them, because the higher the budget, the higher the expectation for for the box office, and you can't bank on $1 billion for it. Marvel notwithstanding, you can't bank on $1 billion. It would be nice if instead of trying to hit home runs to hit $1 billion, they try to hit a good single or double. Spend 60 million, make 350 million, and be happy. Be happy with because
Yeah.
you made a profit, and don't go all in. You don't have to go hard like that. Now they
Yeah.
gave him 185 million, and he spent 185 million. And you can if you know anything about movies, if you pay attention to these big blockbusters, you see all 185 million dollars on that screen. You know
Yeah.
exactly where they spent a ton of money. So that said, I love James Gunn. So this sucks. I always hope other people like the things I like. I venture to say that uh, many comic book and superhero and movie nerds liked it. There are also many people who didn't, and there are a lot of. I'm gonna tell you what. Who some of the people are that's talking the most shit about this movie. You would think
What?
it. You would think it'd be Marvel fanboys, right? You would think.
Who is it?
It's
Who
not.
is it?
It's the fucking Zack Snyder fanboys, and that are talking about the Snyderverse shit, and then they're talking about the Ayer cut and everything like that. Those guys are talking the most shit about the Suicide Squad, and I'm like, well, you motherfuckers, stop fucking eating your own tail. Stop doing that. If Suicide Squad is good, the chances of you getting the fucking Ayer cut is much better because it costs money to recut movies and stuff. It's not shit isn't free. The Ayer cut's not just hanging out somewhere that they just refuse to release. No, it costs money the same way the Snyder cut of Justice League costs money. And so if the Suicide Squad doesn't do well, that means that's less money to go do other things. Like just learn something about the business of Hollywood. If you ever learn the business of Hollywood, and you'll understand why we get the things we get and why we don't get the things that we don't get. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you'll figure that shit out. So it really is a situation where if there's a flop, if DC keeps having every other movie is a flop, then let's call it like it is. As much as I love Suicide Squad, it flopped, and Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't a success either. So you got two. The previous one was fine, the Snyder cut was alright, and these two didn't quite do what they were supposed to.
Yeah.
So that's not good. That's not a good average. And DC needs to get on. They need to not just win one out of every three projects. They need to win every fucking project because right now they're so damn far behind. They keep losing money that we won't get anything cool. Like they're
Nope.
banking on the Batman to be good. So I don't know. I know I'm going off on that, but like this whole dragging down the Suicide Squad to make the fucking Snyder cut or Snyderverse look better is dumb as shit. It's just stupid. You're not
Yeah.
if you're wanting them to fail at something so that the thing you want gets made, but they need money to make that thing, and they're not gonna get money for it if the shit they make fails. That's like this is
Yep.
not hard. So y'all Snyderverse fans, like you need to be cheering for the team. I mean, it is literally like people on the you're on the bench for the Lakers and you're cheering for you're hoping LeBron misses 10 in a row so you can get out there so you can get out there in his place or something. It's dumb. Yeah, like the whole team has to win in order for you to be successful. Just like chill out.
Yeah. I
Any-
completely agree with you.
anyway, so there's that with Suicide Squad. Hope it turns around. So let's move on to like a big, to me a pretty big, near and dear to my heart um, topic. We talked about this before. Let's just dive into it. Marvel and DC, or really more so, Marvel and DC, the companies, and their parent companies are some stingy ass bitches. Is that like just let's just
Hmm.
rip the band-aid off? There's some stingy ass bitches. Um, we talked before, remember, like I said, a few months ago about Ta-Nehisi Coates talking about how comics creators are compensated when their work on a comic book is then turned around and exploited in the films to make $1 billion, seven, eight, 900 billion dollar movies, making big bank for the companies that own the comic companies, and how essentially they aren't doing shit. There's
Yep.
some deals here and there, but they were even talking about, um, how, and this is Marvel, right now they're having a bad pattern of being shitty about this. Um, on the Star Wars side, they didn't want to pay this guy who since the '70s has been writing novelizations and Star Wars novels, and because they bought this stuff from Lucasfilm, but they felt like they didn't have to honor the contracts that this guy had signed, and they finally made it right after he made a stink about it. And so that's part of what I kind of wanted us to talk about, which is one part. There's two parts to this whole compensation thing. One is that there's the so-called shut up money aspect of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak, where they will they will
Hmm.
shortchange and or not honor contracts and or you know give insulting sums to the people who, not just like, oh, they worked on Spider-Man at one time, but no, they created a definitive Spider-Man storyline and characters that are being put into movies
Yep.
and making billions of dollars and on merch and everything like that. And those creators, because they created they signed a contract at one time that didn't mention streaming or didn't mention the movies or what I'm saying, didn't mention
Yeah.
any of this stuff.
Hmm.
And so they are legally within their rights to do what they're doing. And some of these creators are big enough that, and they got enough fans that they can cause a stink, and so they pay them some money to shut them up. So there's, like I said, the shut up money. But the other part is, as I said before, legally they can do this stuff, but is it the right thing to do? Is it right? Is it right for them to take advantage of people? Because that's what it is. They're taking advantage of people who they just have a job, right?
Yep.
They want to write or draw comics for a living, and that's their job, and they enjoy doing it. But at the time, they get paid just enough to make it worth their while. And then, who knows how many years later, a decade, 20, 30 years later, it gets their specific storyline and their design and everything get turned into these huge franchises. And even though there's no legal obligation, is it right for them to actually treat people that way? So that was a long intro. So I'm on a step back. Lottie, let you take the floor um, before I go in on this. So
Yeah. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. It and it's one of those things that it's just terrible when it comes to comic books stories and a lot of stuff because we all know, it's well documented, the creator of Superman died unfortunately poor, which is something that is just a disgrace. You know what I mean? It should not have happened. It should never have happened, but unfortunately it did.
oh,
And
I
it's
actually let me give a little more context. Um, Siegel and Schuster, those are they co-created Spider-Man, not Spider-Man, Superman. Do you
Mhm.
know how much money they were paid to give up their basically give up their rights to the creation? It was something like 69. No, this is in 1938. Something like $69.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because of that, DC was able to just basically be like, yeah, we're not paying you anything. And it wasn't until the '70s until you know they sued and there was a long battle and so forth. They finally got a better compensation. But it was the night. So 40 something years later, they're old men. So that's
Yep.
I just and look, the way they were treated was it's pretty normal. They were treated, if you know about the comics industry, even well into the '70s, it was like a sweatshop.
Yep.
You have a page rate, and the page rate wasn't awesome, but it was enough to live on. You were not a member, you were not an employee, you were a freelancer. There's all sorts of like ways that they got around, and then once it became clear that they could monetize Batman and Superman and so forth, they were trying to figure out ways to screw the creators out of it contractually. So that's I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yep. It's just, man, it's just one of those things that it's just I hate to see it because I write because of course I'm a video game I have a video game that I'm designing, and I write the story of it, and it's just one of those things that it just is like it's just sad to see that this could happen to you, and you could create such a good story that is so compelling, and then this company can make you feel like the story is absolute, terrible or whatever, and basically trick you into basically just selling it off so you can just be done with it. But then you find out they basically turned this thing into a $1 billion franchise, and you're like, wait, hold up, you know. And I know it's legally is right, but I don't care about legal because let's just be honest, the justice system is sketchy. Is you know what I mean? And it's about morals. These people work so hard to make something so beautiful and so good, and you just treat them like they're nothing, and you just not pay them. And it's just one of those things that is just it's just so unfortunate. And it's like I said, this goes into it happens all the time in movies, music, video games. I can go down the line, anime. You know, we see the the people who made it, like Stan Lee, Masashi Kishimoto in Naruto, Toriyama in Dragon Ball, um, uh, I'm trying to think, Neil Druckmann in Uncharted franchise. We see the people who made it, like they turned their story and they're making money off of their story, and they're the head, and they made it to the top of the company that created that story, and we see that. But there's a lot of people like um the Supermans, like the people who made Superman, that are not making anything. The family's not making anything off of the character, you know. And DC parades them and views them like a $1 billion company. It's just there's a lot of stories like that. Look at the when it comes to what's it called Insomniac. I mean not Insomniac. Um, what's it called? Microsoft and Bungie. Look what they're doing to Halo. Bungie created Halo, and now look at it. They're using that company to itself, and they're not giving Bungie anything. You know what I mean? It's just there's a
And
lot of stories
yeah,
like that.
and I will note that Bungie probably sold the rights or whatever for a pretty penny. Now,
Yeah, yeah,
now the thing now,
we agree.
but here's the difference. So there's a lot of talk about this going around the nerd space and movies and whatever. And I think that instinctively most people, if you have any kind of like empathy for anybody, can recognize the kind of bullshit of seeing your story. And with an understanding, yes, you signed a contract, you're work for hire. Yes, yes, yes. I get that. But to see them make $1 billion off and they give you $5,000 in an invitation to a fucking movie premiere,
Hmm.
$5,000, I'd rather
Yeah.
you didn't give me shit than that
Yep.
insulting amount. Like, if a movie grosses $1 billion, takes takes take the cut for the movie theaters out and the market out. At the end of the day, you still got over a $250 million, probably 300 mil, 400 million dollars that you're banking off of that. You can't give the dude that wrote story $1 million and roll out. You think that
Hmm.
makes people want to work for you like that? It's how you treat people. This is about how you treat people, and it becomes very easy for a corporate, because this is a let's not split hairs. This is about Disney corporate and Warner Brothers corporate. Now, in the past, it has been about Marvel corporate and DC corporate, but a lot of the people that work at the high levels there, they know what's up and they're not trying to screw other people out of, because these are people they work with, their friends and all that other stuff. And you always want to maintain good relations with your talent. And that's the problem here, is that bean counters and executives trying to pad their fucking, their, their bonuses, don't give a crap about that. They want to see how much they can squeeze out of this without giving anybody else anything. And it's just it's you have people that are going to sit here because they're nameless and faceless, and they're doing the works of, they're just working for, they're just doing what the corporation wants, right? So they can say bullshit like they said to Scarlett Johansson about about Black Widow. They can say bullshit to people about, well, they can send someone $5,000, think it's cool, because contractually that's what they can do. But again, you can what's legal and what's right don't necessarily always match up. And
Mhm.
this isn't it's not like, I've heard stupid analogies that people have been talking about. Well, I've heard of one particular from a show that I like, but it was just a stupid analogy about, well, if I pay someone to make some chairs, they can't, and then I use those chairs in the restaurant, and and I make a huge success, and I become, hugely successful. They can't come back and be like, you owe me some more. Can you give me some more money because the chairs were in your restaurant? That's not the same thing.
No,
It's more like if you have a restaurant and
and I give you the secret formula.
yeah, you pay somebody to make make a menu with special recipes that's exclusive to you. You make your own recipes. You pay them, $5,000 to make you a bunch of recipes, and then you go on to become, a fucking celebrity, celebrity hotspot where you're banking millions of dollars per year exclusively, and it's all that person's recipes. Well, who wouldn't think that that's essentially one of the biggest parts of your success is those recipes? You might want to pay this person a little more now that the success, your ability to exploit it is a little better. At least that I think that would be the right thing to do.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's worse than that though, is because, again, this is all about, who, it's all friends. So these are friends having to screw each other over. This is Kevin Feige having to look somebody in the face and be like, God dang it, I don't want to screw you over, Scarlett, but that's what the people above me want to do.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
yeah, you got to wonder, like, who the fuck wants to work for Marvel? Even if they love Spider-Man, who the fuck wants to work for them if they know that it's inherent in there's going to be a contract that's going to inherently screw them if if their stuff ever comes to the screen.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's like it goes into what's it called too, man. It goes into sports. It's sort of what's going on with my favorite team. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and one of our best players, T.J. Watt, right now is in a contract year. And, he's in line to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. And that's something that Pittsburgh usually doesn't do. They usually don't pay players that much money outside of a quarterback, and right now he's sitting out, and the head coach is like, he's being asked questions about it, and they're trying to get him to throw TJ Watt under the bus, and he's like, "Hey man, if I was in the same shoes, I'll do the same thing. Like, you know, for your services, you should be paid this much money. Until they pay you this much money, you shouldn't have to do this." And it's like you said, all these contracts and stuff like this. It just goes back into the Marvel thing. It's like you said, who will want to work? Who will want to write comic? Because that's one of the things. I wanted at one point to write comic books. I wanted to be a comic book writer, but then I saw how cutthroat the industry is. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'd rather be put into gaming. You
And
know what I mean?
which is almost as bad.
It's almost like you agree. Yeah, I completely agree. It's almost as bad. But the thing about it is, at least with gaming, I can do it myself and put it on the internet. All I got to do is just really get somebody to watch it. When it comes to comic books, the way comic books are nowadays, you kind of have to be part of a big company because people just don't read independent comic books. You know what I mean?
Not really. Not unless it's like, outstanding, outstanding.
Yeah.
You know,
It's one of those things that
or
you kind of
or
have
if
to be.
yeah, or if you're a name. So that's the thing. That's the
Yeah,
thing
big
is,
name.
yeah, you have to make a name for yourself on Marvel Comics, and that's the kind of we were talking about Ed Brubaker before that did the death of Captain America, and he created the Winter Soldier. He took an existing character and turned him into the Winter Soldier and all this other stuff. Well, and he doesn't do mainstream comics anymore. Robert Kirkman doesn't do mainstream comics anymore. Mark Miller, they don't, you know why? Because they cut their teeth and made their name in
Hmm.
Marvel and DC comics, and then they rolled out because they don't, even Neil Gaiman, Coraline, Sandman,
Yeah.
American Gods. That dude, the Sandman is a DC comic, um, and one of the greatest comics of all time. I think I mentioned that to you.
Yep.
And he doesn't do that stuff anymore. He doesn't do stuff for other people anymore. He does for himself
Yep.
because that gave him some kind of name, and that's worth something. But the fact that you essentially are telling someone you have to take a low paid internship, maybe turn out some iconic runs on something. We'll never pay you properly for it. We're not going to give you, we're going to make $1 billion off of your idea, but we're not going to give you $1 million because, not because we can't, but because we don't want to, we don't have to because it's legal.
Yeah.
And it's, look, let's just call it like it is. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Like
It's
it,
it's
from
it's
in an industry that's notorious for screwing people over, that do work for that, who's in an industry that relies on the creators to make their, because the executives, the suits aren't writing anything, they're not drawing shit.
yep.
And so you don't get a Spider Verse without, a writer and artist.
Yep.
You don't get the death of Captain America. You don't get, Superman, of the various iterations of Superman, Batman Court of Owls, which I'm certain is going to make its way into uh, live action at some point. You don't get that stuff without these creators, and so it seems to me like an industry that's based a lot of its success on willfully exploiting people should do better when it comes to the even more lucrative side. But it's money, so they, of course, they're not trying to do right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you said, man. It's a sad thing, man. And this is why there should be some type of like, because it's one of those things that it's like there's not enough like deep things to protect artists, writers, and stuff like that, comic book writers, because this is it's a very very beautiful thing, because a lot of stories and movies that we consume were once comic books or once graphic novels or something like that. And like you said, the people who created it or the people who worked on it, they're not getting the equal pay. And this is where it's like there has to be a breaking point eventually. There has to be some rules, some workman's comp to stop this, because like I said, at least in video games, you can go out on your own and make an indie game and it can't hit big, because nowadays indie game, like literally you can literally make a game, just post it on the internet and make millions of dollars. I mean, I'm not saying everybody can do it, but it happens because it's more and more, because more and more people are into indie games, more and more people like indie games. Is you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But with comic books, you're stuck. There's really no indie comic books. There's really no indie comic book fan base. You know what I mean? The comic book fan base, first of all, is not even that big to begin with. There's a lot of people like comic books produce, but to actually read a comic book, it's not as big anymore.
Yeah.
Eventually it will get back to where it is. It's like the same thing where books are starting to make a reemergence in media now. People want to read epic fantasies and stuff like that again. So eventually comic books will get to that point, and when that happens, these comic book writers need to step up and say, no, we're not going to let you pimp us no more. You
Yeah.
know?
And well, so, again, like just the fact that in order to even do that, you got to sort of make a name for yourself. So in a way that people will be exposed to you. So it's kind of, they're in a position just like comics have always been, of being able to exploit people because there's really no other way into the industry to do what you want unless you really want to, like, if you think struggling on the shitty page rates and whatever is hard with Marvel and DC, try doing it self-published or self-financed or whatever, doing it on your own. I mean, there
Yep.
are ways around it like Kickstarter and whatever, but by and large, it's really hard. So the fact that there's an ecosystem that sort of locks people into this cycle should, and this is again, this is a moral question. This isn't about legalities. It's about the morals of it. Can we get away from this idea that the only way we can move forward to in business is to exploit other people to their detriment?
Yep.
That's what I would like for us to get away from. Get away from get away from the idea that in order for Disney to win, the creators have to lose, and instead, when Disney wins, the creators win. Because I think that's
Yep.
better for everybody. So, just I just want people who are in power that have the power to do right, just to fucking do right, and not do right because they're shamed into it, but do right because it's the fucking right thing to do. How hard
Yep.
is that? How hard is it to have, like, would you ask yourself when you're making these contracts, if that was your mom on the other side of the table and you're writing this contract, are you gonna fuck her over? Or are you gonna try to do right by her? Well, treat everybody else like that's your relative that you love. And if you can do that, everybody can fucking win. It's not hard. It's really, I don't think it's a hard thing. I just think that the people who manage to get that high up in business, they have a hard time remembering that they can be human beings that don't exploit people because they think it's expected of them. So anyway, I think we're in agreement about this. It's just
Yep.
it pisses me off, but I'm not surprised, um, and I hate this. You're making me, complicit in the continuing screwing over of comics creators. So I guess maybe the thing is, let's just go buy some comics from these guys and you know help them continue to have a life outside, and maybe there's an avenue somewhere down the line. I don't know. We just don't know. So anyway, I think with that on that note, that sunny note, that's all of our news for today. So, what did you guys think about these various topics we were talking about? And maybe you think that we missed some things. I mean, it's very likely there's almost all sorts of news that are coming out every week. But either way, if you got something for us, get down in the comments and let us know what you're thinking about. Of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And we can just chop it up there, talk about these various issues. All right, well, moving on to our main topic for today, and that is what if episode one, aka she's a brick house.
House.
AK
Mm-mm-mm.
so we're gonna jump into this first episode of Marvel's What If, the new animated alternate universe multiversal exploration, starring Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher, and the first
Mhm.
episode being about Captain Carter. The question it poses is, what if Peggy Carter became the super soldier instead of Steve Rogers? And
Mhm.
of course, they bring back much of the original cast to be the voices in this episode.
Yep.
What if, of course, it's spin? Is it? Would it be fair to say it's a spin off of sorts
Yeah.
from Loki, the end of Loki? That a fair thing to say?
I'm that's what I was gonna ask. Like, I feel like this is actually like what happened because of the end of Loki, you
Hmm.
know? And I
Yeah.
feel like I really think this what if is just exploring the different multiverses, you know?
Right. Yeah. So again, this first one, it's all about what if Sharon Carter became Captain Carter. So, well, we're gonna do non spoiler thoughts first, and then after that we'll jump into some spoilers and we'll talk about it. What's the great thing about What If is it's not related to the main MCU, so you can spoil it, and it pretty much is just going to be that one episode that's spoiled. Even though I have
Yeah,
heard that Captain Carter is probably going to show up again at some point,
I hope so.
and maybe in the MCU proper, but definitely in the series. So we shall see. But
Oh
it,
my god,
yeah.
a
Anyway,
live act. Okay, yeah, let's go. Yeah.
well, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But let's real quick do a spoiler free thoughts review of this episode. So, Lottie, I talk a lot, so why don't you go ahead and take the floor first?
Oh yeah, I really I enjoyed this episode. I mean, I don't know if this is spoilery, but I'm pretty sure people know it. It's I love the first Avengers. I mean, first Captain America movie. A lot of people think I'm crazy for loving that movie as much as I do, but I absolutely love that movie. Probably watched it 100 times in counting, and I like how they just retold it a little bit differently. With the whole thing, it was a really good. I really enjoyed it. The CGI looked good. They added the different they had a couple of the voice actors originally from the movie, not all of them. The guy tried his best to be Steve Rogers, but you could tell that's not Chris Evans. You know what I mean? Um, it's just it's kind of hard to review the episode without saying what's in it. It's just, but the episode itself was very, very well done. I'm excited to see what they do in the future. Like I said, go back to the voice acting; it was really good. The art style was really good. The music choices that they used was good, and a couple of the little quips. Of course, guys, it's not shocker. There was a lot of sexist comments in it. Well, shocker. The movie's based in the 1940s. Get over it. Um, you know what I mean? Enjoyed it. Enjoyed the episode.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I love this episode. There was, I mean, it wasn't a perfect episode. It
Yeah,
was longer than I was expecting, which is not bad. That's actually one of the good things. I was surprised it was 30 something minutes long, and so we actually got a pretty hefty sized chunk of a story. There was a possibility of them kind of going wrong because they're essentially retreading a story we already know. And there are some aspects where like, oh, okay, instead of doing this, they're doing, it's and now, oh, it's Captain America, the first Avenger, but with a girl in it and everything. But I think they actually subverted that thought that they were just going to retell the first Avenger again, but just with a woman. I enjoyed. First of all, I really liked the voice acting. I know you weren't like, oh, that's not Chris. For I thought it was Chris Evans for a minute, and then they were like, no, it's not, and I was like, well, damn. Well, that's pretty close.
well, yeah.
And,
At first, I believed it, but then after a while, I was like, that doesn't sound too much like him. But
but
yeah,
you know what? I still say he he he
he did a good
really
job.
well acquitted himself. The writing for Steve was really good, and
Yep.
was really true to the character. The writing for Peggy Carter was really true to the character. I enjoyed the fact that they really actually changed the story quite substantially.
Yeah.
The fact that Peggy Carter was was very formidable without the super soldier serum, and they showed that the super soldier serum. Remember in Falcon and Winter Soldier they were saying, "Oh well, it just takes what's already there and enhances it, right?"
Yeah.
And that's why John Walker kind of like went off the deep end. Well, that shows that what Carter was already made of was already formidable anyway, and already in the
Yeah.
right direction. And you notice there were some aspects of that character that you know she was automatically ready to go, and unlike Steve Rogers. Yes, there was some the stuff about sexism and all that. It's obvious uh, that was going to happen, but just the fact that and rather than follow, even when you got to points that were like very similar to the first Avenger, they didn't work out exactly the same way. And in fact, the finale of the episode was out of left field as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
And the inclusion of, you think, okay, well, Steve Rogers is a little 90-pound weakling. The hell can he do in the rest of the story? And they keep him along and really show, as I know, and I know, that Steve Rogers was Captain America before he ever got the super
Oh
soldier
yeah.
serum.
Oh
He
yeah.
he
Yep.
and but also I think it really shows, without diminishing that at all. It also shows that Peggy Carter was just as much that dude, so to speak, as she could. She was just as much Captain America too. So
Honestly, she might have. She might be. Maybe because it's the animated show. Maybe Captain America will be doing the same things. But the feats that she showed at that show, she was way. She's way more powerful than.
I have a theory. I've got a theory about that, but I
Yeah.
I will say I will say extremely satisfied. The action sequences were phenomenal. I was kind of going. I literally I was just like let's go repeatedly. I was clapping my hands. Just it would just make me think about some of my favorite action sequences. And this is animated. No, this is so I can see the budget. The animation
Yeah.
budget was this. They're not skimping on this show.
No,
Definitely not. It looks
it
really
looks good.
good. It
Yeah, it
it
looks good.
was all the action was very like hard hitting and everything like that. So I mean, just overall, this is a strong first episode of this show. I fully and then, it's probably one of the most mundane of the episodes because we know so many more like fantastical things are coming in future episodes. So great, great out of the gates. I'm super excited for the rest of this show to see where it goes. I can't wait to see the Watcher and how he's going to show up and do things. So overall, just loved it. I had a great time with it. I can't wait. I got to go watch this thing again because it was that good.
Yeah, it was good.
So all
Hmm.
right, well, all you you people that have not seen the first episode of What If, well, first of all, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Get over there and watch this episode, and then come back
Only
and
30
listen.
minutes.
Yeah, it's like about a half hour. Come back. We'll talk spoilers and everything like that. You can be in on it with us right here. So if you haven't watched it yet, go do that and then come back. We'll talk spoilers. So, all right, you've been warned. We are getting into the spoiler discussion right now. So, Lottie, Steve Rogers was Iron Man kicking ass, and he
Yes. So I, I'm pretty sure you already know what the first thing I was going to say because I texted to you. I wanted Steve Rogers to be the Winter Soldier so bad. I was like,
they got you too. I felt the same way. Like I
I
was
was
like,
like,
oh okay. I was like, oh okay. Steve is gonna be the Winter Soldier, and Peggy was like, nope, I'm going to get my boyfriend. I'm and
I was like, Steve about to be the fucking Winter Soldier up in this bitch.
there's a bunch of aspects when I was watching this. I was like, well, damn, Lottie's gonna be like, what? But I know I'm jumping around a lot. For instance, I knew that ending. Uh, I was like, oh shit, there's an aboleth. They're fighting, and then I was listening to someone else talk about, it, and they were like, "Is that Shuma Gorath?" And I was like, "Oh shit, if that's Shuma Gorath, I know Lottie's gonna
Oh
be
no!
like."
Oh, if
I
that
was
was
like,
Schumer
I was like,
Garai.
"Oh, well, Lottie's gonna be like, what?" Like, he's just gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
At
Okay,
first, I thought it was Schumer Garai. At first, but then I said, "Nah, that's too tame to be Schumer Garai." If that was Schumer Garai, things would get fucked all the way up. So
yeah,
I was like, "Nah, that's not Schumer Garai."
but
But
I thought about this, and I was like, Red Skull, what was your plan here? What was here?
yeah, then he's thinking it's gonna go.
What was your plan? I like you. I no, actually, I was thinking like, oh man, you know what? This is Norse stuff. This is Odin's, Tesseract and everything.
I
But
thought
then
he was going to bring
I thought he was
that.
gonna bring Thor. I thought he was gonna bring Thor. They was like, it's gonna be a champ. I was like, maybe an Asgardian's gonna show up and be under the control of Hydra, and then like that'll suck.
I thought he was going to bring one of those robots. You know, those
The
like
Destroyer,
mach-
maybe.
yeah, the destroyer. That's what I thought he was going to bring. But then I said, "Wait, what?" And plus, he's not even badass Red Skull. He's Red Skull. He got crushed. It's kind of funny, but kind of like, damn, my dog Red Skull went out so bad because I was expecting him to be the Red Skull from the movie
Yeah.
that's took the super soldier serum too, but he's not. He's just a dude with a red skull
Well,
as a
maybe
head.
he did, but he was just like, yeah, I got the Tesseract. It's on now. Because you remember you know, he didn't really he wasn't really able to do any of that because Captain America was punching on him. But in this case, the whole little thing about being in the plane and all that other shit that where Steve got knocked into the ice, none of that happened because immediately they went to go rescue him, to
Yeah.
rescue Steve and to get the Tesseract back. So,
Well, really, they didn't even know Steve was alive.
well, they didn't, but I mean, as it transpired, he was. So,
Yeah, he was
um,
alive, and it's kind of cool that he's Iron Man this whole time.
yeah.
And and I'm just gonna be honest, Iron Man should be very, very disappointed himself. I mean, yes, I know you were in a cave in Afghanistan, but your father made a suit way better than that in the 1940s. You
But
should be.
to be fair to Tony, that suit was powered by the fucking Tesseract. So I mean, like, there's a whole lot of energy you can get off of that. Like, I, yes, maybe probably Howard Stark is more brilliant than Tony. I mean, there's some aspects of this where Howard Stark. I think I tweeted this. Like, Howard Stark's resume is still superior to Tony's because not
Yeah, I
only
mean,
not only did
he-
he do all of this, the super soldier serum, all this, but he also literally went into the field and expelled an interdimensional eldritch horror with, while helping Captain Carter and everything like that. I'm like, that Tony is gonna just have like the worst inferiority complex ever because he'll never live up to that with his
you
thing.
never. I mean, but it even like let's talk about his canon stuff. Like he created the strongest shield ever made in the 1940s. He designed a limitless power source in the 1940s. The only thing, like, if Howard Stark, the only thing that was holding back Howard Stark is a power supply. If Howard Stark had a good power supply, he would be able to make stuff that Tony is making in the 2020s back in the 40s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you saw when he got the Tesseract. You saw when he actually had time to work with the Tesseract, because technically, by this movie, they got the Tesseract technically in the beginning of the movie. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Hmm.
Unlike this movie, they didn't get the Tesseract till almost the end. Unlike the last movie, he
Right.
actually had time, basically weeks and months, to work on this thing, and you saw what he did. Imagine if he had a power source of something like that back then in the canon. He'll be able to create things way better than Tony. And it's like you said, you can see why Tony has such an inferiority complex, because Howard Stark was that dude back in the day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Um, I think I mean, there's some aspects of the changes. I was just like, oh, that kind of sucks. Like, no Bucky Barnes, there's no Winter Soldier in this.
Yeah, Winter Soldier doesn't exist. Yeah.
Uh, I'm assuming that Steve and Bucky grew old and maybe died.
Yeah, they
Um,
had to. They
yeah,
had to because
yeah. When she came out of the portal, she pushed the thing through the portal. When she came out, it's 70 years later.
damn, that sucks. Because unlike Steve, she doesn't have a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
She's completely alone.
I mean, we
Yeah.
don't know exactly the extent of that, but that was like, oh man, it's kind of messed up. Um,
Well, you
I,
actually don't know. Like, we don't know. Steve might be actually alive, completely surrogate to like this Iron Man suit. We
well,
don't know.
I wonder if he ended up doing the way, remember Peggy Carter in the Agent Carter series went on to like really found Shield, right? She was one of the founders of Shield, so maybe that's what Steve and Bucky did after the war instead. Um,
That shield will be so much
and
better
and that's
than
and that's
what
also
she made.
yeah, this world is. Let's also remember that this is a world where Howard Stark literally made an Iron Man suit in
Yeah,
in the 40s,
yeah.
that and it still existed when at the end of all of this stuff. So, but there were and they had the Tesseract.
They
So
still had the
yeah, they
Tesseract.
still had the Tesseract too. So I mean, there's also we're speculating. Let's talk about the episode itself though. Um, I liked the fact that they skipped over the USO shit, and they literally skipped over the USO stuff, and went
Yeah.
straight to Colonel women don't belong anywhere except in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant Flynn. Uh, and he's basically the reason why she skips all that USO stuff and just goes straight to the ass kicking.
Yeah.
Um, enjoyed that. I think there's the heavy handedness of that was necessary to be like seriously, you know, women were barely, they barely were out there and being like nurses and shit. So much less being on the front lines kicking ass.
Yeah.
What did you think about you? You said you thought she was, more. What do you think she? I feel like she was more powerful than Steve. She was doing things. I was like, Steve couldn't do that
Yeah.
shit.
This woman was literally doing like 1940 Superman type shit, like leaping over a building in a single bound. She's literally like standing there, and cars are literally flipping off of her. I mean, yes, she's holding a shield, but at the same time, cars are literally bouncing off of her. Like this woman was literally like she's literally She Hulk.
Yeah,
Like in my opinion, she was like in the She Hulk range, and I don't know if it's. I don't really think it's because cause some people. My brother's theory was, oh, it's because she was already fit before she. And I said, well,
I think
Bucky's not that strong though.
yeah,
But I don't think.
but Bucky didn't have Erskine's formula. He had the Russian
Oh yeah,
approximation of
you're
the super
right. You're
soldier
right.
serum.
You're right. You're
So
right. You're
and,
right.
and you remember that I don't think the Russians had the process either. They didn't have Howard Stark's technology and
You're absolutely
process
right.
either.
You're
But
absolutely right.
honestly, I was like, I was like, wow, how is she able to do this? And I thought like she already was like in pretty like I don't want to say peak human condition. That's not true. But she was already an elite agent, a
Yeah.
great marksman and all that other stuff. So and she was not a 90-pound weakling. So if you can imagine, what if Steve Rogers hadn't been a 90-pound weakling, but had been a super athletic dude, and then you
Yeah.
gave him more of it. And
Yeah.
so, like, how much more awesome would he have been? And I think the answer is Captain Carter is how much more awesome because, not she just grow taller and everything, but she's definitely stronger.
Yeah.
Just doing that,
She's doing shit so easily, like
she thought
stuff like
she threw that motorcycle. Like she threw
yeah.
the motorcycle with like it was nothing, and I was like, yeah, she's definitely stronger than Steve was.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's gonna? You think that bothers? Even I know it's just an alternate universe thing. Do you think that bothers the man babies
Yeah, I
in the
think that
fandom?
it really pissed them off. I feel like a
Did it
lot of
really? I
people are
don't know.
getting
I hadn't seen anybody talking about
well,
it.
yeah, I haven't seen anybody talking, but it's like I could see how some people are upset because it kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, wait, but then I'd say, well, yeah, she was more fit than him when she took the serum. Some part of me was like, maybe it's animation, but then I was like, nah, this is clearly showing that she's stronger than him.
Hmm.
I mean, like I said, this woman outran a speeding motorcycle.
It
She
was awesome.
outran a speeding motorcycle. Literally stopped a full speed army jeep. It literally bounced off her body.
Hmm.
She leaped over a what? Let's say a 50-foot wall, because those are military encampments. She leaped over it like it was nothing, and like you said, just threw a motorcycle into another 50-foot tall what is that thing, gun tower. I was like, what is this? This woman she's literally She Hulk. Like she's
Yeah,
literally on the level of like She Hulk type stuff. And I was just like, she was, and like I said, she literally pushed the damn thing into the. I'm like,
yeah. They were the Nazis were they were SOL.
yeah,
I love the part where the guy's like, oh, now they send the Fräulein out here, and I was like, this was one of those where I was like, damn, where she just broke the dude's, caved his knee in and just like took him out. I was like, yeah, yeah, because that was like that was a very Disney sort of thing to do. Because you ever see like in like the Disney movies,
yeah,
they'll have like the big guy. He's obviously like he's the strong guy, and
yeah,
then gets beat up. He gets beat up just to let you know like, hey, the heroes or whoever is pretty kick ass. And so
Yeah.
I was like, "That's a what a Disney thing to do," and
Yeah.
it was really nice, but also I was like, "Damn, that her knees caved in, dude."
Yeah. And plus, let's just look at, because we've both seen the original movie. Look how she handled everything. Remember how when Steve went to go save them? Steve snuck in. That woman went through the gate front first and said, beat up everybody in the courtyard without even trying to pretend to act like no one could see it. She literally soloed that whole entire camp on her own.
You're
And
like,
I was
"What are
like,
that? What are the Howling Commandos for again?"
I was like,
that is
yeah,
one of the
what were the
downsides.
commandos?
Yeah,
Yeah, like what were the commandos? Like literally, her, her, and
and
Iron
Steve. Yeah,
Iron
I
Rodgers.
think
I was gonna call him Iron
they
Rodgers.
called it the Hydra Stomper.
Yes,
Hydra Stomper. Um,
I would have called him Iron Rodgers. Iron
well,
Rodgers. Her and Iron Rodgers was gonna solo the whole German army. Like, let's just be honest.
I love that too.
It's there was no. It was just like, yeah, they had to resort to like some form of trickery just to get him out. But then at the same time, she just literally just walked up to their freaking base and just said, "Hey, I want my stuff back."
You're like, "Do we have a plan?" Howard Stark said, "Do we have a plan?" It's like the plan is to go punch everyone. That's what the plan is.
Yeah,
I kind of love that whole, the aerial combat bit, and I was like, "God dang it, she can beat y'all's ass in the air too." I mean, like, wait, yeah, no wonder y'all were losing. Like, just
yeah,
yeah, it was just all. I think it was all around pretty awesome. I did enjoy also. I think that their little love story that didn't quite get consummated, but those are the parts where though I was like, well, whoever wrote this gets what's going on because Steve Rogers would never have been like, oh man, it should have been me. He was
yeah,
happy that she was, if not him, that she got it, and that
yeah.
he was happy to be able to stand beside her and fight and whatever. That's the Steve. That's why I said I was like, okay, I believe this Steve Rogers is he's still Steve Rogers.
Yeah,
He
I
never
really
needed that.
enjoy I really enjoyed this movie, and of course, we saw them basically confirming that there might be a what if what's it called movie of Infinity War movie, because we see at the end where they show like all the females that switch roles, that we see that Gamora is Thanos.
Yeah, yeah.
So we get to see. So pretty much, they almost confirmed that she is going to come back somewhere in this what if movie. I mean, TV show that, because if we're going to have a what if movie with Thanos in it, we have to have the Avengers. So now you got to ask yourself: is Tony Stark going to be Iron Man, or is Steve Rogers' grandson going to be Iron Man?
I mean, we don't know. That's the thing is like the thing you're talking about. It may just be Captain Carter from that universe, and then other people from other universes. So we're not
Well,
really
yeah,
quite sure.
yeah,
So
you're right.
I think
Because we,
I think we have to keep an eye on that as this unfolds over the next. I think it's like, is it 8 weeks now? I think it's 8 episodes.
because
Um,
I kind of want to see how the heck did Gamora become Thanos. What happened? What happened for her to be? I want to see this. I'm excited. I was like, wait, what? Gamora's Thanos? Like like when I saw that, I said, how? What happened? What did her and Thanos become like really close, and then Thanos died, and she's like, now I'm Thanos or something? Or did
I
she
mean,
betray Thanos,
the
killed him, and became Thanos?
well, the main Gomorrah could have been that she was loyal to him until she wasn't. She was loyal to him until she met the Guardians.
Oh,
But remember, but when she
oh,
was locked up though, but I mean, she had decided to run away or whatever because she didn't want to like help him find the Infinity Stones. So
they could
that.
have. They could easily just have it that she never met Quinn.
Oh well, yeah.
Quill.
Well,
Quill.
I mean, there's that in the next is it the next episode or next in a few episodes, Star Lord is going to be T'Challa. So we'll see. We're gonna see.
What?
What's
You
that?
said you said Star Lord is gonna be what?
You haven't? Oh, you haven't been watching the trailers for this? Yeah, that's the next the episode. He's gonna apparently Chadwick Boseman's in like 4 of the episodes, but T'Challa, his episode is what if he was Star Lord.
How in the fuck does that work? Okay, no,
He well, I
let's
mean, we're gonna find
speculate.
out, but essentially, I'm gonna say that Yondu takes him instead of instead of Peter Quill, and so he grows up as a Ravager.
But
Yeah, he grows up as a
no,
Ravager.
but the thing that I'm trying to figure out how that works because Wandu took what's his name because he was trying to deliver him to his father. So
We gonna find out.
so
We
it's
don't know yet. So
maybe it was a mistake. That would be awesome.
yeah, could be.
So is
Gave
he
him
still? So is he still Black Panther? Like he has Black Panther
no.
like powers?
No. He was raised. He was just imagine the same age that Peter Quill was taken. That's when he was, when T'Challa was taken to
Oh
protect.
shit! So that's why Warmonger's. Oh, now it makes so much sense. Now this is why Warmonger is Black
We're
Panther.
talking about
Okay.
Killmonger, but that's a different. See,
Yeah.
this is the danger of watching What If and being like, oh, it's all connected. I mean, yeah, maybe, but
But it's all
they're in
different
different
universes.
universes. Yeah, that's the Killmonger and Tony Stark being besties is a different universe.
I
So
just I kind of I just want to see. I just want to see the main one. I want to see is Spider Strange. How does that happen? I
yeah,
want to see Spider Strange. So okay, real quick. Is Spider Strange? Is that Peter Parker or is that what's his name?
no, it's Peter Parker as far as I know.
Okay. Just
So
making
I
sure.
about to say, man, we are far afield from the first episode, but yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
speculation for the next episodes. Yes,
yeah.
but we have many more to come though. There's this this show is just really getting started. I think again, strong first episode. I think it was absolutely worth seeing. I think one of the few negatives though to it is this really is a show for people who've seen the MCU. If you've never watched the MCU,
Yeah, you have to watch the movies.
This is the worst thing to start on.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to
just
watch the
don't.
movies.
Like, if you
Yeah.
need to if you need to have seen Captain America, the first Avenger, otherwise this doesn't make any sense. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
completely agree. Like you couldn't the way they transitioned to the movie, and I don't even say you will probably have to have watched Captain America: The First Avenger multiple times to kind of because the way they transitioned to the movie. Because let's be honest, that movie's over 10 years old. Some people probably only seen that movie once when it first came out, and 10 years ago, they probably don't remember the whole movie. So they'll be like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Me and you, we've seen the movie so many times, I literally could quote the movie. You know what I mean? So somebody that probably only seen the movie once or twice, they'll be confused because it's moving so fast, they can't connect the dots of the what if. You know what I mean?
hmm yeah. But I don't know. I don't have any more spoiler thoughts for this one. Just like I recommend everybody to check this out. It's a great, it's a great way to kind of tide you over until the next mainline MCU thing, and it's fun to think about these. You know what I love about a What If? I love that we live in a world where there's been enough Marvel stuff that they can make a What If show. Like where they can just be like, you know what? Hey, Marvel fans, uh, I know y'all sit and speculate and stuff. Do you ever think about what if this shit happened here? You ever think? Yes, we have thought about these things because we're nerd. You and I, we're comic book nerds. But I love the fact that there are non-comic book nerds. They're just people that love the MCU that can support a show like this, and they don't think it's weird. So it's the world we live in. We live in strange and wonderful times. So.
Yep.
So anyway, those are our spoiler thoughts on the first episode of uh, What If, Marvel's What If, also, and I guess What If in general, and our speculations about it. So, what did you guys think about this episode, and what did you think about our thoughts on it? Why don't you get down to the comment section? Let us know what you're thinking. And of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. We can get there and chop it up about What If and the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. Have lots of fun, do all that nerdy, speculation thing that we do. And hey, while you're in the clicky mood, why don't you click that subscribe button so you can join the Super Not Funny Show family and hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when we drop new content, which we do every week. New reviews and reactions. We do a couple podcasts here. You can get down there and check that out. That'd be pretty awesome. So, all right, LADI, why don't you let them know where they can find you online on your social media?
Oh yeah, you can always find me on my Instagram, which is Anu Kinihun. Again, it's Anu Kinihun, ANUKINIHUN. Again, it's ANUKINIHUN. And of course, you can see me on my YouTube channel, Kinihun25. And yeah, uploading different things, video games, different things of the podcast, the other podcasts that we record, gameplay, all that different stuff. If you want to check it out, see my social media. Give me a like, give me a follow, write down a comment if you're mad at me. I take all different type. I take all types of criticism.
That's yeah. You guys go show Lottie some love at his social medias. Like, subscribe, view some stuff. You know how it is. Show some love the way you're showing love to the Super Not Funny Show. All right, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags. Thanks once again for joining us for this Supercast. Can you believe it? 3 months of Supercast, and we got so much more coming down the line for the rest of the year. So much to talk about next week as we watch episode 2 of Marvel's What If, and I'm sure there's going to be lots more news that we're going to get into. Until then, I have been Mo Pupe, your resident fabricant and comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture. Join my good friend, the anime expert, video game designer, and lover of all things superhero, LADI. And we'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.
Peace.